These are some photos I had laying around of Kefauver, the Kefauver Crime Committee, when it went into Kansas City, 1952. Pretty sure it was 1952. In this business, crime writing, I've discussed this in the past. If you don't get the date exactly right, there are people who will have nervous breakdowns. Again, this is popcorn history, and these guys that I'm talking about, they take it seriously. They talk about these gangsters like other normal people talk about football players or baseball players. Anyway, I'm bitching and whining. Let me move along. Kefauver showed up in Kansas and scared the hell out of everybody because in places like Kansas, in other words, outside of New York, Chicago, that were manageable. The mobsters had a pretty good grasp on stuff because police forces were limited. So let's say a big force of 500 guys. Well, you could you could manage that. You could pay some right people off. And you got hold of stuff. But there was no dealing with the federal government. The federal government was then and is now a machine. It just keeps going. It doesn't care. It's given a mission and it rolls along. They didn't know how to deal with this. And their lawyers were usually local guys who, at this point, didn't really have any experience dealing with federal law, with the Justice Department. So for the first time, all their money and their guns weren't going to do them a lot of good. They were terrified. And federal sentences were being doled out after the committee left town, left and right. It scared these guys. So you'll see that mostly the guys you see in these pictures, by the way, a lot of them are just gamblers. There's some other real-life mafia killers in here. But a lot of these guys are just guys who got subpoenaed. I do need to tell you, though, Kefauver the committee had some pretty good investigators. And when they showed up in the city, they knew what they were talking about. And they knew who to subpoena, and they knew who to pull in. And they got this stuff there were crime commissions in those days, which were pretty good. The Chicago Crime Commission in the 1940s and 50s was a great organization, uncorruptible. And they had enormous, thousands of files that law enforcement hadn't looked at. And so Kefauver went in there and he had his guys, his investigators, pull it back out. The other thing is, by the way, Kefauver, a committee has a set budget. But Kefauver was a pretty powerful guy in the U.S. Senate. And the Kefauver hearings were turning him into a huge celebrity. So his budget may have been limited, but he could call into D.C. and he could have Hoover show up with, 50 agents in one day, or he had the narcotics people. Anybody he needed, he could get them. So when they're pulling these guys in, it shocked a lot of them. The quality of information that Kefauver's committee had on them scared them. Everyone breathed a little bit easier when they left. The committee in the Midwest did a lot of damage. These guys it was a comfortable experience. They were hiding under rocks. There wasn't a lot of publicity about them. Once in a while there was a burp and they'd make the news, but they were well-run, quiet organizations. And then shows up Kefauver and bang, everything changes overnight. And I'll do more on the individual bosses in the organization. But here's some of these photos. Enjoy.